Yeah. On that note, what can you tell us about ISIS tactics?
They usually use two sets. For offensive, they're very guerrilla. They get close, hit you as hard as they can with barrage, fire maneuver, and if they can't overcome you, then they'll pull back out almost immediately and get as far away as they can. And as far as when we generally do offensives, they don't you see thousands of Peshmerga lining up to come kick in your front door. They pull out and literally lay out hundreds of IEDs and just pick away at them as the forces try to move in.
That was what we saw in the battle on September 11th, was the enemy practicing defense in depth, that they had the whole road IED. How many IEDs did they dig up that day?
Jeez, more than I can count.
50 maybe?
Yeah. I've got hours of footage of just IEDs going off or being dug up.
So they weren't trying to hold that ground. They fell back to defensible positions, or they fell back and had the area booby trapped for guys to run into.
Right.
Have you seen suicide attacks used offensively?
Not personally, but the day before we got attacked, when they were taking that area initially, they had a couple of D-beds come in at them. They blew them up with Dishkas and RPGs, things like that. They generally don't, it takes a very careful planning to do an individual suicide bomb with the vest on one of these offensives, so they like to use up-armored vehicles. They'll take for instance, we're talking to some of the guys of this unit, and one of our guys here took shrapnel on the blast. They took an MRAP, and then they up-armored it more, to where they fired like 3 RPGs at this thing, or hit him with a Dushka and could not stop it, got within 100 meters and they detonated.
That brings us to another point, is that the enemy has inadvertently benefited from Western assistance, and that they captured weapon stockpiles and vehicles that we gave to GOI, and that they captured. Have the Kurdish forces benefited from Western assistance? Also, we saw on the front lines the other day with you, the Pazerfaust, the Milan, the G36 rifles.
Yeah, they get a lot of help from European coalition countries such as Germany. They've donated, I think it was 8,000 G36s. See, we have now. They get, we see a lot of Type 56 AKs, so Chinese, brand new. Like some of them still have packing grease on them, which is interesting. And then of course, Germany's donated Pazerfausts, since Carl Gustavs. It's very limited. They don't have as much, nearly the equipment that DOS does, you know. A lot of vehicles.
You think the Pesh are outgunned?
Yeah.
On the ground at least. It helps to have the air that we have here. That's definitely, that plays a huge part.
Because they can't match, DOS can't match that.
Yeah, they can't do anything with that.
So do you think the military assistance that the Pesh have received from the West, has it helped, has it not helped?
Yes, it has, but I don't think they could do so much more. You know, the West could be doing so much more in that area. Yes, it's helping, but I mean, it's like, you know, if you're hungry and I give you, if you haven't eaten in a day and I give you a Snickers, you're like, all right, sweet food.
Thanks, bro.
But it's still not a meal, you know what I mean?
It's just enough to keep them going.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, when we were out on the front with you the other day, I mean, the first thing I was thinking is like, this is the perfect place to have a special forces team, have an ODA out there doing combat advising and really, you know, putting rubber on the asphalt to get something done.
Right.
Which
they do operate out here, generally with some of the more elite units like the counter-terror group and SWAT, and they are out there as far as I know, as JTACs and military advisors, where they're helping train them and whatnot.
Joey, you wanted to say something more about the tactics that the enemy uses?
Something I noticed being in Rojava versus here, when the YPG would get ready to take a village, they would be a little bit more discreet about it. So versus here, you know, being in the village, I'm pretty sure they can see Peshmerga getting ready to assault.
It gives them lighting column.
Yeah, and the lights and all that. And it gives them time to set those bombs and run away. But the handful of villages that we did take in Rojava, they did the same thing, but they didn't have the time to set up the bomb. So a lot of the time, you know, they had EOD guys that would go out. They would go out at night and they would literally low crawl up, dismantle a couple bombs, come back, and they would do that. They would do that undetected. So a lot of the times when we would push villages, there wouldn't be any bombs left, or we'd be so sneaky that they would just run, and you know they'd return fire a little bit as they were running, and we'd see them leaving in their vehicles, but they never had time
So
to
yeah,
reach out.
they would also creep up on the enemy.
Yeah, and they would
Use those
wait,
guerrilla
and they would wait behind cover, or they would come in at night without lights on, that kind of thing. So it would surprise Dash more, and they wouldn't have time to set up those IEDs or those bombs.
It's interesting.
And a lot of those villages, there's no booby traps, no bombs, and we'd see them running, we'd shoot at them, they'd shoot back, but they just run away, didn't have time to get rid of anything.
That military knowledge that they built up from decades of fighting up in the mountains.
Yeah, and it's good that they have those guys there to kind of show them those tactics, because they are a new military. You can tell with a handful of guys there, they're brand new to fighting, but they get battle hard pretty quick there.
So let's talk about coalition airstrikes. And wherever I've been in Kurdistan, or even when I was in Rojava back in November, everyone says the airstrikes suck. They're not effective. We're not doing anything. You know, where are you, America? You know, I want to ask you guys, since you've been out there for a while, how you would rate the effectiveness of coalition airstrikes.
Personally, well, I have heard that like some of the guys we know were on offensive before we got there, and to 9th, and it was the U.S. Air Force. They dropped 2 bombs. One didn't go off, and the other one they blew up an empty truck in the open, and then they took off. And Peshmerga tried to launch in. Daesh had tanks, and they got their shit.
They got hammered.
They had to do a 1,000-yard run through the open to get back.
Because they were relying on pre-assault fires to take out the tanks.
Right, and then they got pinned down, and they started getting flanked, and they were caught in a classic L shape. And one of the Westerners got shot in the leg. Another Westerner got blown out by a mortar. Both lived and survived. And,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Got evac'd. One went home. The other one's still out here somewhere. Got patched up. When my first experience with them was when we went. Remember the OP we staged at to launch from before the first village?
Yeah.
That
yeah,
OP,
yeah.
we were the ones, our American team back in 9th were the ones who set up that initial berm line out front of that OP. And I believe that was back in May. And anyway, we rolled out with 3 Humvees and 1 Land Cruiser with the Dishka. Our Humvees had BKCs and MG3s, and we rolled in and immediately were under fire. They were staying in play, and we would sit there and just 500 yards back and forth with machine guns sitting in the buildings. It was a therapeutic day. It lasted about 7 hours. Literally just sit there, wait till we get shot at. I'd climb up my turret, light up a few doors and windows, it'd go quiet, sit back down, smoke a chain smoke for 10 minutes or so. Yeah, it was it wasn't compared to the previous firefight. It was easy day. Just get out there and do talking guns with the other Humvees. And RAF came in, and they as Daesh tried to maneuver on us on the left, they hit them with 300-pounders and some of the positions behind a hill and whatnot. And then towards the end of it, they decided to finish it with 2 JDAMs on specific. One was a bunker, and another was a building, and they were very effective. We killed. We don't know if machine guns got them, the airstrikes got them, but in total there were 13 dead Daesh that day. So. Yeah, and after the bombs dropped, they quit playing. Like, we're taking our toys and leaving.
Game over.
The funniest moment of the day was the MG3 was going down because it's old and it's beat to hell, and they clean and lubricate with diesel.
Oh yeah.
So the thing was just malfunctioning, failure to feed, failure to fire. I'm just sitting there just messing with it under fire, and finally somebody ran over with a can of motor oil. So I'm pouring that in there. I'm like, screw, we gotta get this thing up and running. Because I only had 1 drum of BKC, and I'm like, we can't resort to that because we need that if they start really pushing on us. Anyway, we got it up and running. I'm like, all right. It was quiet at the time, and I'm like, all right, test fire. I let off a burst, and the village erupted. I'm like, oh crap, I must have pissed someone off. Hadn't been a real effective. I just picked a good spot, and yeah. I was like laughing. Like round, some of the rounds were getting right over our crow's nest.